47. Do not therefore imagine that I, who had no desire to imitate or represent the calamities or fictitious sorrows of the heroes of antiquity in my speech, and was no actor of a foreign impersonated part, but a supporter of my own, when Manius Aquilus, by my efforts, was to be maintained in his rights as a citizen, did that which I did in the peroration of that cause without a strong feeling. For when I saw him, whom I remember to have been consul, and as general honored by the Senate, I have marched up to the Capitol with the pomp of an ovation, afflicted, dejected, sorrowful, reduced to the last extremity of danger, I no sooner attempted to excite compassion in others than I was myself moved with compassion. I observed indeed that the judges were wonderfully moved when I brought forward the sorrowful old man, habited in mourning, and did what you, Crassius, commend, not with the art of which I know not what to say, but with great concern and emotion of mind, so that I tore open his garment and showed his scars. When Caius Marius, who was present and sat by, heightened the sorrow expressed in my speech by his tears, and when I, frequently calling upon him, recommended his colleague to his protection, and invoked him as an advocate to defend the common fortune of commanders. This excitement of compassion, this adjuration of all gods and men, of citizens and allies, was not unaccompanied by my tears and extreme commiseration on my part, and if, from all the expressions which I then used, real concern of my own had been absent, my speech would not only have failed to excite commiseration, but would have even deserved ridicule. I therefore instruct you in these particulars, Sculpicius, that I am, forsooth, so skillful and so learned a master, showing you how in speaking you may be angry and sorrowful and weep. Though why indeed should I teach you this, who in accusing my questor and companion in office raised so fierce a flame, not only by your speech, but much more by your vehemence, passion, and fiery spirit, that I could scarce venture to approach to extinguish it. For if you had in that cause everything in your favor, you brought before the judges violence, flight, pelting with stones, the cruel exercise of the tribunation power in the grievous and miserable calamity of Capo. It appeared that Marcus Aemilius, the first man, not only in the Senate but in the city, had been struck with one of the stones, and nobody could deny that Lucius Cotta and Titus Didius, when they would have interposed their negative upon the passing of the law, had been driven in a tumultuous manner from the temple. 48. There was also this circumstance in your favor, that you, being merely a youth, were thought to make these complaints on behalf of the commonwealth with the utmost propriety. I, a man of censorian rank, was thought hardly in a condition to appear with any honor in defense of seditious citizen, a man who had been unrelenting at the calamity of consular person. The judges were citizens of the highest character. The forum was crowded with respectable people, so that scarcely even a slight excuse was allowed me, although I was to speak in defense of one who had been my questor. In these circumstances, why need I say that I had recourse to some degree of art? I will state how I acted, and if you please, you may place my defense under some head of art. I noticed in connection the natures, ill effects, and dangers of every kind of sedition. I brought down my discourse on that subject through all the changes of circumstances in our commonwealth, and I concluded by observing that, although all seditions had ever been attended with troubles, yet that some had been supported by justice and almost by necessity. I then dwelt on those subjects with Crassius just now mentioned, that neither could kings have been expelled from the city, nor tribunes of the people have been created, nor the consular power have so often been dismissed by votes of the commonalty, nor the right of appeal, that patroness of the state and guardian of our liberty have been granted to the Roman people without disagreement with the nobility, and if those seditions had been of advantage to the republic, it should not immediately, if any commotion had been raised among the people, be laid to the charge of Cassius Norbanus as a heinous crime or a capital misdemeanor, but that if it had ever been allowed to the people of Rome to appear justly provoked, and I showed that it had been often followed, no occasion was ever more just than that of which I was speaking. I then gave another turn to my speech and directed it to the commendation of Capo's flight, the lamentation for the loss of the army. But this diversion I made the grief of those to flow afresh who were mourning for their friends, and re-excited the minds of the Roman knights, before whom, as judges, the cause was being pleaded, to hatred towards Quintus Capo, from whom they were alienated on account of the right of judicature,